All right, man. We are live, man. I got a special guest for you guys. Welcome to another episode of Talking Sports with Manny. I got the fantasy football lord. This guy right here knows everything fantasy. He's always bringing a passion to heat. He knows what he's talking about. So I definitely wanted to get you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Welcome.
I appreciate you, man. It's an honor to be on, man, and it's all about getting together, collaborating, making new relationships, networking, and I'm glad you reached out and we could keep this thing going, man.
Absolutely, man. So, man, I got some questions for you, man. Let me pull up my notes real quick. I just kind of wanted to, dive in because, right now it's fantasy season. We're doing
Yeah,
our
for
draft,
sure.
whether it's redraft, whether it's a dynasty. Um, what players do you feel like people should stay away from?
All right, so I'm actually. It's funny you had mentioned the notes thing. I plan to just come into this and just go straight out the dome because I'm just like, for instance, a couple of days ago, I came up with a potential bust list,
Okay.
and those are some of the players I'll give to you now.
Okay.
One of the big ones is tight end Austin Hooper.
Okay.
He was a big free agent acquisition for the Cleveland Browns. He
Hmm.
did very well in Atlanta. However, that was in Atlanta. That's a team that perennially always favors the tight end when it comes to fantasy football, going
Right.
all the way back to when Matt Ryan had Tony Gonzalez. There was a
Hmm.
couple years in there. There might have been 1 or 2 years in the early 2010s where the tight end
Okay.
didn't produce top numbers, but you go back to even Jacob Tammy, he was a
Hmm.
fantasy asset.
Oh, yeah, I
So
remember
now,
Jacob Tammy.
yeah, right. So now that Austin Hooper is out of that umbrella,
Hmm.
um, and he's going into a place where they actually have a running game in
Right.
Cleveland. They didn't have that in Atlanta. So in Atlanta was always in shootouts. That's what they're
Right.
known for.
Right.
If Cleveland knows what's good for them, they're going to run that offense through Nick Chubb, who ran for almost 1,500 yards. And then you just got to compete with the targets there with Odell Beckham,
Right.
Jarvis Landry, and they still have David Njoku on the roster.
Right.
Not to mention Kareem Hunt,
Kareem Hunt,
who's
man.
uh who's actually the better pass catcher of the two running backs on the Cleveland
Absolutely.
Browns. So it's just other guys I could get. There's other guys I feel like I could get later on who will be
Okay.
just as productive or even better. And those are some guys I'll obviously touch on later.
Okay. But let
Another
me ask you this,
guy,
though.
go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. If you're saying that Austin Hooper is not going to do well, are you saying that Hayden Hurst is going to do great in Atlanta?
Correct. Um,
Right.
so just being the tight end in Atlanta alone, your floor should be around 50 catches, over
Okay.
600 yards, at least 500 touchdowns. Remember, Austin Hooper just come off a season where he caught 76 passes, and that
Right.
was with missing 3 games.
Hmm.
Um, Hayden Hurst, who's coming over for the Ravens, where he was basically the third string tight end.
Right.
And despite that, he still finished as tight end 33 or 36, which is way
Mhm.
down there, but
Right.
he was the third string tight end on
Opportunity.
his team.
Right.
And when he did get the ball, if you go back to when the Ravens played Buffalo,
Hmm.
he took one to the house, 61 yards. So you can kind of see his ability there. So
Right.
yeah,
I mean, he was the
with
first rounder.
he was a first rounder. Yes.
And I always hear
Not
people say Hayden Hurst sucks and Hayden Hurst this. I'm like, it's just the system that he was in. Baltimore had
yeah,
three really good tight ends and had to get rid of one. So
yeah, and for him, it was more so he didn't fit that system. He's a pass catching tight end. They
gotcha.
want some guys who could throw down and block.
Hmm.
Now, Austin Hooper is the better blocker than Hayden Hurst. But if we're talking fantasy football, Hayden
Exactly.
Hurst a little faster,
Hmm.
definitely more agile. So it'll be a thing to see.
Okay. Stay on tight end. So in fantasy, who would you rather have, George Kittle or Travis Kelsey?
Well, I would go. Now, as far as real football, it's a lot tighter, and I would
Right. Oh
probably
yeah.
lean George Kittle because he's a hell of a block. Like if you take
All around.
away his pass catching ability, he's still a starter. But
Right.
for
Right.
fantasy, just on the fact that Travis Kelce is consistently tight end one,
Mm-hmm.
consistently putting up 1,000-yard seasons, and his quarterback is Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
I'm going to go with Travis Kelce there. The 49ers, if they're beating you to the ground with the running game, that's what they're going to stay with.
Right.
But that's not to say George Kittles can't go off at any time because he can.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just what you've seen in the playoffs, what the 49ers did, that's how they want to run their offense.
Gotcha. Okay. So now let's get back into the players to stay away from. Who's number 2 on your list?
All right, so I'll go with a running back
Okay.
this time, and that's gonna be Chris Carson.
Okay.
And a lot of people will say it's because of the injuries. Well, no one's good if they're hurt, but
Right.
and this is the thing, he'll have the opportunity again to be a starter, like he always has, because Rashad Penny lives on the injured list, and I think he's starting now on the pup list. So
Yep.
it pushes Chris Carson like even more so,
Mm-hmm.
that he's gonna be the lead back. They did pick up Carlos Hyde, but that's just to give him a breather.
Right.
I just feel like just based on a raw talent, like straight up talent wise, it's just so many other running backs that I would rather. So it's not really nothing against Chris Carson. It's just
Gotcha.
the fact that
Gotcha.
there's so many other backs
I
out there
was
that
about to
I'd
hit you
rather
with some
have. Like,
stats. I was about to fight for Chris Carson, man. I was going to say, hey, he had 1,200 yards last year. He had
yeah,
another
yeah,
1,100 yards the year before. He's had 8 and 9 touchdowns respectively. So I'm like,
yeah,
why not Chris
yeah.
Carson? But
I'm not.
I kind of see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm not gonna even point at his injuries. And like you said, he's been productive, and the
Yeah.
opportunities would be there. Also, there's been grumblings that they're actually gonna let Russell Wilson put the offense on his back,
Right.
because that's kind of what he did. It's like they wait till they need it for him to
Mm-hmm.
do that. But if they do it out the gate and just let him throw, you know, that's how you should run it when you got a top 3 quarterback. But yeah, like
Right.
I said, nothing against Chris Carson, but it's guys like Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
Todd Gurley, those guys I would take over Chris Carson. Like
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I got no problem with Chris Carson is
Maybe in the
like
fourth
a
round.
RB. I like see in the 4th round. The only guy I would maybe get him over and not even is David Montgomery, because David Montgomery could go nowhere but up after
Gotcha.
after how bad his season was. But I would say for me, he would have to fall like to the 5th. Like I want Chris Carson as my
Wow.
RB3. Now, if that happens, which is unlikely, you're probably going to be sitting in a very good spot. But
Right.
RB2, if I get in the
Mm-hmm.
situation in the draft flow,
Right.
it's going a certain way where running backs are coming off the board. I
Right.
wouldn't I wouldn't die if he was my RB2. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if I'm going in a running back zero strategy
Mm-hmm.
where I take 2 wide receivers first,
Right.
um, I wouldn't be looking for Chris Carson to be my top running back.
Gotcha. Okay. I respect that. For me, I'm the opposite. If I see Chris Carson at great value, like you said, Chris Carson as my RB2, I'm okay with that. And if Russell Wilson is going to go into a passing attack, Chris Carson is capable in the passing game, but they don't use him in the passing game.
Correct.
I think he's more suited in that kind of style. It's gonna limit that fumble issue that he has, because the fumble issue is what scares me the
Yeah,
most
that
about him.
yeah, that too. I didn't even bring that up.
Because when he
And
starts
that's
fumbling,
consistent.
man, that's consistent. But the thing is, they haven't had a back to challenge him. Carlos Hyde is capable. He was 1,000-yard back last year. So it's kind of like
he just had his best year. He just had his best year at age 29.
Exactly. So Hyde is a guy that I'm getting later as a handcuff, just in case Carson comes back with his fumbling issues and stuff like that. But I feel like if they use him in the passing game, and I play a lot of PPR leagues, I think that Carson is an asset if I'm getting him in the 4th round or less. Just like you said, I'm going after Le'Veon Bell. You know, he's a dual back.
Right. And if you're PPR, you want guys like Bell, Gurley, David Johnson, all proven pass catchers out of the backfield.
Absolutely. Yeah, like if you don't catch passes, I don't take you. Like I took Melvin Gordon over some guys. Like for me, Montgomery has not shown me anything in the passing game. Tariq Cohen is there.
He's I kind of put him in the same light as Chris Carson, whereas he could do it. They just not using him in that fashion. And you just you had your brought up Melvin Gordon, so I would put Melvin Gordon on that list as guys that not that I'll stay away from. See, I had a post a couple of days ago or maybe last week that said I will never fade any player because at a certain round, any player is draftable. Any player could have value. But for Melvin Gordon's case, I could put him in this category as well that we're talking about. And the main reason for that is Philip Lindsay. Like Philip Lindsay is too talented to just let you come in and be a true workhorse.
Right. And here's my argument with that is for me, for Melvin Gordon, I'm in a 6-keeper league. So I inherited Melvin Gordon in one league and then I traded for him in another league as my RB3. So he's my RB3 in one, and then he's my RB2/3, depending on how Clyde Edwards-Helaire does coming out the gate. So for me, I looked at the numbers. I said, okay, Melvin Gordon didn't play 4 games last year, right? Then he was still able to finish like maybe RB25. I'm not sure of the ranking. I think it's like somewhere around there. So to be splitting carries and everything with Eckler, who was like the main pass catcher, main guy in the slot, for him to come to the Broncos, I think he's a better pass catcher than Philip Lindsay. So I feel like they both can eat.
Now, they both will, but it's not going to be a situation where his upside is running back 1.
No.
It'll just like with Eckler. Him and Eckler will be a different situation than him and Lindsay, like you say, as far as the pass catching. But Lindsay's going to get more carries. He's going to carry the ball because that's what he does well.
Okay, I'll give you that. Lindsay's going to carry the ball, but who's going to get more goal line carries?
That's 100% going to go to Melvin Gordon.
Yeah,
it should.
It should.
But you know how you know. The situations, it's like if you have Melvin Gordon, right, and he's wearing down the defense, getting you down to the goal line, and just because you have Melvin Gordon, they take him out. They take him out, and they put in little Philip Lindsay, because they will run Lindsay at the goal line. They'll run Lindsay at the goal line.
They've done that
plenty of times.
They've done it and continue to do it. But and then I think Philip Lindsay is in a contract year, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. He might have one more year after this.
Let's see. This would be his 3rd year. I think.
Year. Mm-hmm. Did he sign a 4-year contract or 3-year?
I think he signed 4-year. He was undrafted.
Yeah. So if he signed a 4-year,
3 or 4.
Yeah, so if it's 4, then man, it sucks to me. But if it's 3, I'm thrilled. I think, matter of fact, no, I think I saw a list and I think I saw Lindsay in there. I'm not completely sure. I'm not completely accurate. But if Lindsay is a free agent, I love my Melvin Gordon trade. I love my Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, if you talking dynasty,
keeper dynasty, So I have Melvin in a keeper.
That'll be a good situation.
Right, because I feel
situation.
The money that they paid Melvin Gordon, they paid him like a workhorse running back. But for his first year or maybe 2 years, it's not going to be that way. Maybe, if he has a really good season this year and then Lindsey's gone, or maybe they can trade Lindsey at the trade deadline, maybe scoop a third-round pick. It's possible. If that happens, then that just bodes well for Melvin Gordon. I just think that he's the kind of back that I kind of like to draft.
Things change fast for running backs.
Yes. So that's why I don't overspend for them, especially like in a dynasty / keeper. I think I traded a second-round pick for Melvin Gordon. I traded A.J. Brown, got a second, and then took that second and traded for Melvin Gordon.
Traded A.J. Brown, huh?
A.J. Brown for a second, yeah. Because, okay, here's what happened.
Breakout candidate right there.
It's a breakout candidate, but here's what I was looking at. I come into this league. I'm taking over a team. The league is in year 7. It's a 6-keeper league. You got to keep one quarterback. You got to keep one running back. You got to keep one wide receiver, and then three of anything else. So I inherit a team that already had Mark Andrews. So I got to keep Mark Andrews. Okay. I inherit Tom Brady. I'm not a big Tom Brady guy, but it's 6 points per touchdown. He was
next who I was going to talk about.
Yeah, Tom Brady. Yeah, I drafted Tua. I picked up Herbert. Hopefully, one of those guys come up big to where I can keep a young guy and then let go of Brady the following year, because it does me no good keeping on to an old guy. But I do feel like in this particular league, Brady's going to get touchdowns, but I don't know about the yards. Okay, so if Brady gets anywhere close to 30 touchdowns, he's going to be a QB 12 in this particular league. But anyway, so So I had 4 wide receivers in this league. I had to get rid of at least 2 of them because I can't keep them all. So I had Calvin Ridley, breakout in my opinion. I had Calvin Ridley.
You want that guy?
Yeah, Calvin Ridley, AJ Brown. Who's the other one? Jarvis Landry, and then AJ Green. I was trying to get rid of AJ Green. He's older. Nobody wanted him. So I dropped him, and then he went into the draft. So he was drafted in about the 3rd round. Then I tried to trade AJ Brown for a 1st-round pick. The guy was not going, man. Yeah. They were not going. So they said, okay, I'll give you a 2nd. I said, cool, I'll take it. So I took the 2nd. Now I have 2 second-round picks.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. Then I ended up keeping Jarvis Landry and AJ Brown. Here's the cool thing about Jarvis Landry. I traded Jarvis Landry and Christian Kirk that I drafted later on in the draft. I packaged those 2 to get Cooper Kupp and Jamal Williams. So for me, I'm a big Cooper Kupp guy. He had 10 touchdowns last year. I don't know if he gets 10 touchdowns this year, but with Brandon Cooks gone, I still feel like he's going to get the targets. Robert Woods is there, but if you look at Robert Woods historically, Robert Woods doesn't get touchdowns. Max 5 or 6.
He had 2 last year. So you can expect that number to go up just on the strength that it was so low.
Right.
And he came on stronger at the end of the season than did a Cooper Kupp. But as far as those 2 guys, you get they'll both do fine. I got them both in like the high teens, early 20s, because they'll kind of offset each other some games. A guy on their team I'm not so excited about is Tyler Higbee. He did most of his damage in a 5-game stretch. Very few tight ends have done that before, and I don't see him keeping up 104 yards per game average. To be honest, based on pure talent, Gerald Everett, he's up there. And in fact, they drafted Everett after Tyler Higbee is what I try to explain to people. Everett, he was banged up. And even when he came back, he couldn't get back into the flow. They're going to use both guys. But Higbee is being drafted as a guy to finish inside the top 5. Right.
Yeah, I think Higbee is going too high. I like Higbee in the 6th, maybe 7th round if I'm drafting a tight end, but I've been fading tight ends and getting them later this season. If it's not
get them later.
Get them later. If it's not Andrews at a good spot, or let's say I draft Christian McCaffrey first, right? Then it comes back around. You got to wait like 20-something picks, and it comes back around, and I see Kelsey. it's not a bad pick at that point to where I can make another pick immediately, maybe 2 picks later. But for me, with Higbee, what I saw in that breakout was, first of all, they paid Higbee. They didn't pay Everett, right? So they paid Higbee the contract, and sometimes when you pay guys a contract, it doesn't pan out. But what I saw was it takes tight ends a while to develop. So for me, I feel like Higbee's just now coming out. He might not be what he was those last 7 games of the season, but even
he won't be. Trust me.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you that argument. But if he's somewhat producing, he can still end up as a top 7 tight end, because you look at Dallas Goedert, who finished top 7. You know what I'm saying? He finished top 7 playing behind Ertz. So what I'm saying is, like, tight ends don't really put up numbers like that outside the top 5. It's like anything else is just like it's random with injuries.
As far as Higbee's contract, he signed a 4-year deal to what I believe it was for $29 million. Only the first 2 years of it is the contract is really. I looked into this because that's a lot of when we talk about players, we always say, well, they paid them. But if you really look at if you look at the most NFL contracts, really, it's never as long as it seems.
Right.
But here's one for you. If you're gonna take, I don't even know Higbee's ADP. Maybe it's a 6 or 7. I'd rather have Evan Ingram in the 8th round.
Okay. And I'll go against that. The reason why I will not touch Evan Ingram is one of those people that I had him last year, and this guy just kept getting hurt, man. On the part of being available, he just was not. Look, I traded Todd Gurley for Evan Ingram. Why would I do that? I had tons of running backs. I had so many running backs, and I had no tight ends, right? And I think beginning of the year, Evan Ingram was like top 4, top 1 maybe?
Top 3,
so I traded top 3. So I'm thinking, okay, he's going to keep this production going. The minute I make the trade, he's done. He's literally done for the season. So for me, it's not a guy that I can count on, but in the 8th round, why not?
And that's where the risk becomes lower, because if he falls, right, then why not? If you drafted him in the 8th or the 9th round and he does get hurt, well, you use the 8th or 9th round pick on him.
True.
And if I pick a guy like that, I'm picking up guys even later in double-digit rounds, 11, 12, 13, like Jonnu Smith, like we just talked about, Hayden Hurst. You got Mike Gesicki out there. It's important to try to find a kind of steady tight end, and it's hard because the only ones who give you consistent production week in, week out is the 3. Now Mark Andrews is on that list too, kind of. But the most steady is Travis Kelce. So once after those first couple guys, you just gotta. It's almost like you streaming them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I actually think the tight ends is like deep this year, man. Like you said, Jonnu Smith. Even a guy like Irv Smith. He's coming into his own, and with no Diggs, meaning that's a lot. That's going to be a lot of slot. Irv Smith in the slot.
Yeah, man.
Kind of helping out.
Just never know.
Never know. So like last
Julius Thomas.
Right. Last year,
Julius Thomas in 2012. Darren Waller.
Yeah. Last year I drafted O.J. Howard in the 5th round. Okay, so for me that's early. Drafted O.J. Howard, but in every league I drafted O.J., I took Mark Andrews in round 10 or 11 in every league, because I saw what Mark Andrews did with Lamar Jackson at the end of the year. So when you're saying that end of the year stuff like Higbee, I'm seeing something in Higbee at the end of the year, but I'm not going to overspend. See, with what I saw out of Mark Andrews and Lamar, it wasn't enough. It wasn't like what Higbee did. So I was able to get Mark Andrews in the 10th, 11th round in every single league.
Exactly.
Everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
you're not going to see Higbee going in the 10th round.
You're not. Because, see, he did too much.
So
he did too much.
Right. So he has to finish as a top 5, 6 tight end to
Make it worth
justify
it.
his draft
Yep.
position. Mark Andrews, you saw a little something. We saw him catch that deep ball from
Right.
Lamar's rookie year versus the Chargers. You saw stuff like that
Yep. Yep.
that made you want to draft them later, and that's the
Right.
difference.
Yep.
Is to
That's
get
true.
that
That's true.
guy in the double digit
That's true.
rounds,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that goes with any position you want to get
Right.
value. Um, you know.
Yeah, most definitely. Like I said, I just think there's a lot of tight ends out there. Noah Fant. It's just so many that you can go in and grab and can produce. You know what I'm saying? Based off of how things happen. So for me, I'd rather fade tight
Each of
end and
these
take a slow
guys,
guy.
yeah,
What'd you say?
definitely do that, man.
Mhm.
Get the tight end later. Each of these tight ends is all gonna give you a 100-yard game this season.
Right,
That
right.
you could probably bank on. You just
Hmm.
got to figure out when it is and pick the right one.
Right, right, right. Yeah, tight end is just it's a funny thing. But moving on in our list of stuff, I'm kind of glad that we're kind of flowing. It's not what we got on the notes, but hey, it's some great content here that we're talking about. Rookie impact, real quick. What rookies do you see actually doing something and taking that? Like, do you see any wide receivers produce like how they did last season? Now, granted, with the COVID and the no preseason, all those things factor in. But last year we saw guys
Yeah,
like McLaurin and AJ Brown, DK, Debo.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
who
So
do you see
as
this
far
season?
as receivers go in that fashion, early on I was adamant, and I'm even more adamant about it now that Jalen Rager will finish as
Hmm,
the rookie wide receiver one.
okay.
Base even as soon as he was drafted to the Eagles, you see the injuries. You see what
Mhm.
Carson Wentz
Yep.
had to go through with his receiving course last year. They're still hurt. Like Alshon Jeffrey still hurt.
Right.
Deshaun Jackson coming off an injury. Um, they were down to their practice squad receivers last year. Now you
Right.
bring in a guy.
Right.
Now you bring in a guy in Rager who played. His talent was beyond what he was working with at TCU.
Mhm. Right.
Overthrown a lot. Didn't
Mhm.
have the best team and offense around him. But now this is a guy who could give you everything. He can give you return game. He could give you pass catching. He could give you some reverses out of the backfield.
Right.
He's that kind of player, and his game speed is much faster than whatever 40 is. There was a lot of talk about his 40 at the combine,
Mhm.
but his field speed is a lot faster. And at the end of the day, he just gonna have the opportunity
Right.
to come in and contribute early. In fact, they've already said that they have him learning every single wide receiver position.
Nice. So, do you think? Okay, with him learning for me, I didn't watch a lot of Rager at TCU or anything like that. So, does he run routes? Is he just like a speed guy? Is he like a Tyreek Hill kind of wide
So,
receiver?
so,
Like,
so I would compare him to, I would compare him to a faster version of Debo Samuel.
hmm,
Just like a guy who could do it all. You saw Debo at the end of the year and in the playoffs,
mhm,
they would get him the ball any type of
right.
way they could. They would get
Okay.
him his touches, whether it was to run or pass. So he would be a faster and maybe a little more agile Debo Samuels. He's also a little smaller than Debo too.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you this:
So
Do
he's not
you?
he's not your guy who's just gonna get in and run go routes, you
Gotcha.
know.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. So you've sold me on Rager. Now, how about JJ Arcega-Whiteside? Is he a bust? Does he suck? Like, does he need work? Like, what's the problem there? Because he's probably going to be the wide receiver too on that team this
Yeah,
year.
I don't want to call no kid a bust after 1 year unless they
Yeah,
like
yeah,
actually retired or quit the sport or something. Um,
I respect it.
you would have thought, but he had some injuries himself too.
Mhm.
Now he'll get a chance to he could be a deep sleeper. Now he'll
Yeah,
get the chance to there's nothing in front of him but opportunity. Like
right.
he's competing with a rookie. You know, Deshaun Jackson will have his spot there. Marquise Goodwin has opted out. So it's
Right.
nothing but opportunity for JJ
Rookie.
to do well. And what
Right.
he does with that opportunity is up to him. Or else we'll
Mhm.
see Greg Ward
Right.
back at wide receiver. And they want JJ
Right.
to be good because they
Mhm.
want him to be that big receiver for them.
Right. And mind you, the Eagles did draft 3 rookie wide receivers. So those are some of the things that kind of scare me about their situation. But Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz. He's going to produce regardless. He has 2 really good tight
Yeah,
ends,
and
and
he did, and he don't get enough credit.
Carson Wentz is amazing. I'm a Redskins fan. I'm supposed to hate Carson Wentz, but he's really, really good, and I give him his respect. He's a guy that produces every single year. He gets you 27 touchdowns regardless. So with better talent, even though that these guys are young, I do expect them to hit some guys. Because I'm sorry, like what's that dude? Nelson Aguilar couldn't catch anything. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they were picking up wide receivers. You know what I'm saying? So
that boy
like,
couldn't catch. That boy couldn't catch COVID out here if it slapped him in the face.
Oh no. Yeah, man. So all right. So Jalen Reagor, is there any other rookies that you see making an impact? Who do you see making the most impact as a running back besides Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Who else do you see?
Yeah, so I wasn't even gonna talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire because that's now that Damian Williams is gone, that's a given. I'll talk about Cam Akers, who I actually had finishing as my rookie running back 1 until Damian Williams opted out. I flip-flopped those 2 guys. Another guy, Cam Akers, is just gonna have opportunity. He will be running behind a bad offensive line. Todd Gurley ran with the same offensive line and was able to finish as a running back 14 in fantasy. So that was the Rams' first draft pick. Now he'll get in. He'll compete with Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. I think Darrell Henderson had a problem with the playbook last year because they was really high on him. But drafting Cam Akers just shows you that that's not enough what they got. And based on pure talent, I would actually say that Cam Akers is better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire based on pure talent. Could be now. This the thing about Cam Akers. He already used to running behind a bad line. He had one for 3 years at Florida State and was still running for thousands of yards. He didn't have a quarterback who could throw or push the ball down the field. That offense was Cam Akers.
Right.
If he was on better Florida State teams, you would have seen him in the conversation for Doak Walker Awards and stuff like that. But he's a pure running back talent. He's a big running back, and he's fast, and he can catch the ball out the backfield. So if he just gets the opportunity, when he does get the opportunity, he'll do something with that.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you a few more questions as we close. I'm going to ask you a question. Just give me a name. So I already know who your top rookie wide receiver and running backs are. Who's your top rookie quarterback?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Okay. Who's your top rookie?
He started from the get.
Right.
Tight end.
Man. It's a hard one. This is a weak draft.
I don't even.
Cole Kmet.
Whoever the Bears drafted, I know they drafted a guy.
Cole Kmet. Yeah, Cole Kmet from Notre Dame.
Cole Kmet. Yeah.
Who everybody said was the best tight end in the draft, and he went like 4th round or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a strong tight end class.
Right. Who is your QB1 this year?
Lamar Jackson.
Mine too. Who is your wide receiver 1?
I haven't come out with that yet, and it's I don't want to get that one away yet because the Lamar Jackson thing, everybody has Lamar Jackson as their number 1, so I don't mind that. And I don't mind saying that I got Saquon Barkley as my number 1 wide receiver. Actually, wide receiver number 1 right now, Michael Thomas.
Okay. I see that. I mean, I Yeah, I had him in my number one, but I did say that Hopkins and Tyreek Hill have a chance to finish number one, and I have my reasons on that. We can talk
That's
about
so
that on
my
another.
answer is subject to my my answer is subject to change.
Same. Like, bro, when I did my top 25 for wide receivers, I flipped it, I switched it. I mean, can you believe that I didn't have AJ Brown as a wide receiver 2, which is crazy. But it's just so
You
hard
mean
with
for this
injury.
year?
Yeah, for this year. You know, guys like Juju with a healthy Ben, he was elevated. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, I feel like the Rams suck. They're always going to be passing. They're always going to be losing. So when you're losing, throwing, we don't know what's going on with the running back.
Hey,
So
they not that bad. They was 9-7.
they were 9-7,
They
but
were
they
9
threw.
and 7.
But if you look at the attempts, Jared Goff was throwing the
Yeah.
ball. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Well, he was top 5 in yards too.
yeah. So when I look at all that, you know, some of the guys were just sliding up, and then as guys slide up, guys slide down. So then, you know, being a
I
Redskins
know exactly
fan,
what you mean.
Kelvin Harmon injury, then Terry McLaurin goes up. Who's going to catch the ball in Washington? So it's like, at the end of the day, you look at the end of the list, you're like, man, AJ Brown just made it right outside of my wide receiver 2s. It was just crazy,
you
man.
You got to fix that part. You got to get him in there, man.
I got to get him in there somehow, man. Maybe I demote DJ, but DJ Chark was in my wide receiver 3s. My list is just crazy, man. We'll talk about that another day. My list is just bananas when I did it, and now it's all changed. If I have to redo it again, a lot of those guys won't be where they are. It's just wide receivers is just so hard to, you know, a lot of things can happen. All right, before we go, give me one nugget that somebody can use and win their fantasy championship this year.
You could expect Josh Jacobs, Raiders running back, to finish within the top 5 at his position this season. Last year, the guy that I talked about in this position was Dalvin Cook. I literally ranked him number 2. This year, my guy's Josh Jacobs. You probably could get him in the second round, end of the first. Target him.
Okay, bet. I have him in my dynasty. I'm excited about that.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully,
you should be.
Yeah, yeah. I actually traded Derrick Henry last year before the season started for Josh Jacobs. That's how much I believe in Josh Jacobs.
Okay.
It'll
work out for you this season.
Yeah, Derrick Henry went off, and I started scratching my head. You know, I traded it to a Titans fan, and he was excited. I was happy with Josh Jacobs because I'm looking at that youth, that rookie contract, dynasty, year 2 of the dynasty, and then I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen with the whole Derrick Henry situation, and it panned out for him. So he won the trade for now, but moving forward, Jacobs is going to be that guy. Yes, sir. So, hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can the fans find you on social media?
So on the Twitter, you can get me at Lord Don't Lose, and then on Instagram at Fantasy Football Lord. Check me out. Content every day, baby.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much, man. I'm definitely bringing you back for some more different segments. So thank you so much for coming on, bro.
For sure, man. Appreciate it, man.
All right, man. All right, man. Thank you.